the quiet coastal town of Key West, Florida, the year was 1904. The sun rose over pastel-colored houses, the waves lapped gently on the shore, and in a large house that stood proud on Eden Street, a little boy named Robert Eugene Otto, Gene for short, was about to receive a gift that would change his life forever. Gene was a quiet, artistic child. He loved to draw, play music, and spend time alone in his imagination. His parents, Thomas and Minnie Otto, were wealthy and respected in town. They owned a big Victorian home with high ceilings, antique furniture, and a staff of servants who took care of the house. One of these servants was a Bahamian woman. She had worked in the Otto house for years, but had recently fallen out of favor with Minnie. Rumors whispered among neighbors claimed she practiced voodoo or black magic, but no one ever confirmed it. Just before she was dismissed from her position, she handed Gene a parting gift, a handmade doll. It was tall, nearly the same size as Gene, dressed in a sailor suit, and had a face sewn from fabric with 2 black button eyes. "His name is Robert," she told the boy. Gene was thrilled. From that day forward, the doll and Gene were inseparable. He carried Robert everywhere, talked to him like a real person, and even gave the doll his own name. From then on, Gene referred to himself as Eugene, and the doll as Robert. Soon after, strange things began to happen. Late at night, Gene's parents would hear him talking in his room. At first, they thought he was using different voices in play, but sometimes they heard a deep, unfamiliar voice respond. They would rush to his room, only to find Gene sitting alone, the doll propped up nearby. Furniture began moving on its own. Chairs knocked over, lamps broken, and toys scattered across the floor. When Gene was questioned, his reply was always the same. Robert did it. Neighbors walking past the house claimed they saw the doll moving from window to window when no one was home. One child swore he saw Robert blinking at him from the 2nd floor. The Ottos began locking Robert in the attic, but no matter how securely he was locked away, they would often find him seated in Gene's chair the next morning, or standing in the hallway. As Gene grew older, he became a talented artist. He traveled abroad to study. But when his parents passed away, he returned to the family home with his wife, Anne. By then, Robert had been long locked in a trunk in the attic. When Gene reopened the house, he also reopened the attic and found Robert exactly as he had left him. Gene, now a grown man, brought the doll back into the house and gave him a room of his own, complete with furniture and a window view. Anne felt uneasy. She often heard footsteps and giggles when Gene wasn't around. Once, she found the doll sitting at her vanity, holding her brush. When she confronted Gene, he dismissed her fears. "He's just a doll," he said. But deep inside, he too felt the old fear returning. Gene began to paint less and talk more. To Robert. Visitors noticed he often paused to let the doll speak. The atmosphere in the house grew heavy. Friends stopped coming over. The servants left one by one. Then came the final straw. One night, Anne woke up to find Robert at the foot of their bed, staring at her. She screamed. Gene locked the doll away again, this time swearing never to bring him out. Years later, in 1974, Jean passed away in the house. Anne left soon after. The house sat empty for some time until a new family moved in, unaware of Robert's story. Their 10-year-old daughter found the doll in a trunk in the attic. Delighted, she brought him down to play. That night, she screamed so loudly that her parents rushed to her room. She claimed Robert had tried to hurt her. Over the next few weeks, things got worse. The girl said Robert moved on his own, whispered to her, and even threatened her. Her toys were found mutilated, furniture was overturned, and the house felt colder. Eventually, the family gave Robert to the East Martello Museum in Key West, where he remains to this day. But even behind glass, his legend continues. Museum staff reports strange occurrences, lights flicker, cameras malfunction, and visitors feel uneasy. Some claim they see him blink. Others say he changes expressions when no one is looking. Letters from frightened guests line the walls, apologies to Robert for disrespecting him, pleading for forgiveness. Some say if you take a photo without asking Robert's permission, bad luck will follow. People have reported losing jobs, crashing cars, or suffering illnesses after mocking the doll. Even now, the museum receives hundreds of letters and emails addressed to Robert each year, some asking for help, some offering gifts, and many saying, "I'm sorry." But the story doesn't end there. A documentary filmmaker visited the museum in 2001, curious to capture the story of Robert the doll. During filming, he made jokes about the doll, calling it silly and overrated. Within a week, the man had lost his job, his equipment was stolen, and his house suffered major flood damage from a broken pipe. He later wrote a public apology and mailed a letter to Robert at the museum. In another case, a school teacher brought her class to see Robert. One of the boys snapped a photo without asking. The same evening, the boy's dog died unexpectedly. The boy, terrified, wrote a letter the next day to Robert. His mother mailed it to the museum. These incidents have caused the museum to post warning signs near Robert's glass case. Please ask permission before taking photos. The museum also logs each letter received and archives them. Some people report forgiveness, saying their bad luck faded after their apology. Others never find peace. The doll has been tested by researchers. No hidden wires, no mechanical tricks. He's just cloth, stuffing, and buttons. But what lives inside him is still debated. Paranormal investigators have spent nights locked inside the museum. Some say they heard footsteps when no one was there. Others claim to hear whispering. One psychic said she felt a powerful presence, like that of a child, but one deeply wounded and angry. There are stories from former employees who refuse to return. One janitor said he quit after hearing someone whisper his name while he was alone. Another tour guide reported Robert's chair facing a different direction each morning. In 2018, a family visited Robert and decided to mock him. They posted a funny photo on Instagram with the caption, "Creepy old sock puppet." 2 days later, their car was totaled in an accident. Though no one was seriously hurt, they too wrote a letter to Robert. Today, Robert is one of the most popular and feared haunted objects in the world. His story has appeared in documentaries, books, and paranormal television, but no amount of exposure has lessened his eerie power. Visitors still tremble before him. Museum staff greet him every morning, and no one, absolutely no one, turns their back on Robert the doll without saying goodbye. Because it is said, if you do, he might follow you home. And if he does, you will never sleep peacefully again. We expect you must liked this story. For our motivation, please subscribe channel now. We will be grateful for this. Thank you.